Opens the World's Fair in Seville, Spain today, and Steve Fox is over there. Be reporting throughout the morning from Seville. Also this morning, Aidan Quinn, the American actor whose name sounds so Irish, finally gets to play a man of the old sod. The movie set in Ireland is a story of danger, obsession, and true love, and Aidan Quinn will be joining us.
Also ahead, find out if Joel Siegel got any joy from The City of Joy, a new epic starring Patrick Swayze. Leading the news at this hour, and the latest on that California convict's efforts to escape execution, Morton Dean, who's filling in for Mike Schneider, has that story and all the other news of the day. Good morning, Mort.
Good morning, Spencer, and good morning, everyone. Another escape route has been closed for death row inmate Robert Harris. A panel of federal judges decided early this morning to allow the execution. If further appeals fail, Harris will be the first person in 25 years to be put to death in California. ABC's Tom Schell has more.
As opponents of the death penalty kept a vigil outside of California's San Quentin prison, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals decided in San Francisco to overturn a stay of execution for Robert Alton Harris. Harris, convicted of killing two San Diego teenagers in 1978, is now scheduled to die in the California gas chamber at 1 minute past midnight. Saturday night, U.S. District Court Judge Marilyn Patel granted the stay when the ACLU challenged the use of the gas chamber as cruel and unusual punishment. It was her order that was overturned by the Court of Appeals on a 2-to-1 vote. The dissenting vote was cast by Judge John Noonan, who left the federal building in San Francisco in mid-evening some 4 hours before the other two judges decided the execution should go on as scheduled. Noonan declined to answer reporters' questions. The ACLU is now asking the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn the appellate court decision and again block the execution. Tom Schell, ABC News, Los Angeles.
There will be more on the Harris case coming up next on Good Morning America. The anti-abortion group Operation Rescue has set up shop in Buffalo, New York. The group is vowing to shut the city's abortion clinics just the way it tried to last summer in Wichita, Kansas. Hundreds of abortion rights advocates are also in Buffalo, and they say they're going to keep the clinics open. There is good news this morning in downtown Chicago. Officials say the leak under the loop has been plugged, and now all the water that poured into tunnels and basements over the past week will be drained. That doesn't mean the arguing over what caused the leak is over. Far from it. ABC's Jim Gibbons reports.
Great Lakes Dredge, the company that placed pilings in the riverbed at the flood site where pilings appear to be responsible for damage to a freight tunnel that eventually led to the flood, says the work was done correctly and that city maps it used did not show a tunnel.
We had no more idea there was a tunnel near that bridge than I think there's one in my backyard. When we work for the city and they know there's a tunnel there, they tell us. It's routine.
That may be so, but the work contract requires the contractor to know such things, and Great Lakes admits that it did not consult the agency that keeps track of all underground structures.
We did seek out other sources of information. We did not, to my knowledge, contact the Board of Underground.
Well, the work contract states that new pilings must be placed in the exact location of the old. Great Lakes says that was impossible because of structural changes here at the bridge. Great Lakes claims it was given verbal permission to relocate the pilings a few feet away, but declined to say by whom.
Great Lakes said it did everything according to specifications.
I don't know that. You would have to look. You have to specifically look at the contract. You have to look at the work down there and everything else. So sure they're going to say that. They have to say it.
Yeah, they said that that there was a city inspector on site day by day.
Well, we don't know that.
Videotape and still pictures taken in the tunnel before the flood show that wooden pilings had pierced the tunnel. But Great Lakes is reluctant to say that these pilings are theirs, or that new pilings were driven in on top of the old.
Of the pilings that are visible in the photograph, it's clear that only one yellow one could conceivably have been ours, and we don't know whose that is. We know that we didn't drive any creosote-coated piles down there.
Avoiding a share of the blame is important because blame could also mean liability for what some estimate will be $1 billion in damages.
And that was Jim Gibbons of WLS-TV Chicago. A new look at the bombing of Pan Am 103 raises some old suspicions. Time magazine says it's uncovered new evidence that implicates a man originally suspected by the U.S. Justice Department. He's Ahmed Jibril, the head of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command. Time reports he may have been acting at the request of Iran and Syria. The report says Jibril's group may have planted the bomb with the help of a Syrian drug dealer, and that Flight 103 may have been chosen because a CIA counter-terrorist team was on board. What did the Bush administration know, and when did it know it? The New York Times says the administration knew in early 1989 that Iraq was involved in a major effort to produce a nuclear bomb. The Times says some people in the Energy Department warned their superiors about Iraq's purchase of nuclear parts and triggers for weapons. The Times says the warnings were dismissed as alarmist by senior Energy Department officials. Fallout from the Gulf War. The upcoming issue of American Legion magazine contains a report on a number of veterans of Operation Desert Storm who are now sick. Steve Robertson, a lobbyist for the American Legion and a member of the National Guard from Virginia, says many Gulf War veterans suspect that exposure to harsh chemicals, oil fires, and microwave equipment may have contributed to illnesses now being reported by Desert Storm veterans. The lava is flowing and the fear is growing near Italy's Mount Etna. Another house is in the lava's path. 2 vacation houses on the outskirts of the village of Zaffarana have already been destroyed. International work crews are trying to divert the lava away from the center of the village where more homes and businesses are located. And finally, a report that Madonna has signed a new contract for $60 million. The New York Times says the Time Warner Media conglomerate will make the announcement later today. We'll have to wait until then to find out what she'll be doing to make all that money. But the contract the Times is reporting without question would make Madonna one of the richest performers in history. $60 million. They don't call her the material girl for nothing. And that's the news. Here are Charlie and Spencer.
You can buy a lot of material for $60 million. You can get the whole bolt of cloth for that much money.
You can clothe the whole nation.
Thanks very much, Mort. It's 8 after the hour. Spencer's got the weather. What do you got?
We have indeed. We got some big storms rumbling through the nation's midsection, sort of a battle between winter and summer. I'll show you what's going on here, Charlie.
Execution continued. On one side, defense lawyers and the ACLU. On the other side, attorneys for the state. Joining us this morning from KGTV in San Diego is Brian Michaels, the chief deputy district attorney there, whose office prosecuted the case. Also with us from KGO-TV in San Francisco is Dorothy Ehrlich, the executive director of the ACLU of Northern California. And we were having some audio troubles earlier on with San Diego. Brian Michaels, can you now hear me?
Yes, good morning.
You can. All right. We've got an audio hookup established everywhere there in California. Brian, let me start with you. As of this moment, the execution is on, is that right?
Yes, it is, based on a decision which the Federal Court of Appeals that includes the state of California, we call that the Ninth Circuit.
Right.
They heard arguments last night and said, yes, it's back on. They still have one decision in front of them, though.
And that is a personal appeal. That is an appeal on the merits of the case, is that right?
Yes, it is. That's, it's about the 13th habeas corpus hearing. That means the prisoner says, gee, I'm being held unconstitutionally. He's had 9 of those in the state, 4 in the federal courts, and the 4th one in the federal courts is still pending.
All right. But as of now, Mr. Harris is due to die less than 24 hours from now. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. Dorothy Ehrlich, let me turn to you. You thought over the weekend that you had it stopped with this question of whether using a gas chamber is cruel and unusual punishment. Then the appeals court said no. And so do I gather that that question of the gas chamber as cruel and unusual punishment is gone as an issue? Is that right?
Well, no, it's not gone. We will be filing an appeal. We will both ask the entire Ninth Circuit to reconsider the decision of the 3-judge panel. And if that's unsuccessful, we will go to the entire U.S. Supreme Court. In any case, we intend to pursue this question. What we have brought to the Federal District Court is over 1,000 pages of documentation from witnesses throughout the world who claim that death in the gas chamber is a long, torturous, agonizing death that takes from 5 to 15 minutes. California is only one of 3 states that continues to use the gas chamber. And this case is a class action lawsuit, not just brought on behalf of Robert Harris, but it's brought on behalf of all the condemned men and women.
Let me take that question to Mr. Michaels. You mentioned only 3 states still use the gas chamber. Mr. Michaels, haven't most states that used to use the gas chamber, haven't they gone to lethal injection?
Yes, I think that's correct. There's actually 6 states which allow it. 3 use it, and 3 more make it a choice for the defendant.
But why have those other states gone to lethal injection? Is it because they do consider the gas chamber to be cruel and unusual?
Well, there's not a great deal of legislative history, and of course it's less expensive and it's more mobile to do that. So there are a number of reasons, including economic reasons, why they've done that, I believe.
You mentioned the number of appeals in this case. Totally, I know it's difficult to pin it down, but totally there have been about 13 appeals, did you say, different appeals?
There have been 14. The regular appeal went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and then there have been 13 of these habeas corpus hearings, and then the civil action involving the lethal gas is actually a different kind of action, but some Californians would say it's a 15th appeal for Robert Harris.
Dorothy Ehrlich, there have been so many appeals in this case. It has been 25 years since the state of California has put anyone to death. Does that say that there's some ambivalence in the state of California about this issue?
Well, it says there's a great deal of ambivalence, and I should say the number of appeals that have been filed in this particular case, they don't necessarily have to do directly with Robert Harris's case. Robert Harris is the first person to be condemned to death under California, what was a new death penalty law in California. So it's his case that sort of shaped the challenge to California's death penalty law. Not all of those challenges had to do with the underlying facts in his particular case. And it's for that reason it's taken so long. It's not just a result of the facts in his case. But I think it does show an ambivalence. I think particularly the case that we filed on Friday, if you look at those facts, they are facts which are incredibly compelling. Well, because they don't talk about the death penalty as an abstract principle. They talk about what the death penalty really is, and that is a long, torturous death.
And down now to a very few hours from Mr. Harris. I appreciate both of you being with us. Dorothy Ehrlich, Brian Michaels, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
15 after the hour, opening day at Expo 92, and we'll take a look at it when Good Morning America continues.
Opens today, and Steve Fox is standing by at the United States Pavilion. Buenos dias, Steve.
Good morning, Spence. Very Hispanic of you.
Oh, thank you.
Expo 92 is supposed to be part of Spain's coming out party, where the Spaniards prove to the world that they can successfully stage major events. 6 months from now, history will judge whether or not they were successful, but I can tell you that 2 weeks ago, Expo 92 was very much a work in progress.
When I back in October of last year, most of the pavilions were barely beyond the groundbreaking stage. When I returned, however, some pavilions were completely built, or just adding finishing touches. Others weren't even close, like the United States. And workers were laboring around the clock at the massive Italian pavilion. The betting was they wouldn't finish before opening day. This place, the Pavilion of Discovery, would never open. 2/3 of it was destroyed by a fire during construction. But a top Expo official expressed confidence that the show would go on.
We have more than 90 pavilions. We think that the visitor that comes to Expo after April 20th will find most of the pavilions ready and will enjoy the show.
Water everywhere, including a bioclimatic sphere that sprays mist into the air. It's all part of a scheme to keep visitors cool this summer, when temperatures will often top 100 degrees.
The idea is to evaporate water during the middle part of the day when the humidity level is very low, because that evaporation process helps detract from the heat in the air and thus has a refreshing effect.
Water is a rare unifying theme in Expo's architecture, used, for example, at the British Pavilion to create an enormous flowing liquid wall 120 feet high. Geopolitical changes are reflected in the unified German Pavilion and at the Russian Pavilion, where screws set in concrete are all that remains of the letters USSR. The Swiss, playing against stereotype, had fun with their pavilion. Instead of a display of cheese, yodelers, cuckoo clocks, and numbered bank accounts, an assortment of oddities, including a restaurant with partially eaten meals stuck to the walls and the ceiling.
You finished it on time. Were you also under budget or on budget?
A budget with the money?
Yeah.
Yes, on budget.
Well, at least there's something Swiss about it.
Many pavilions utilize contemporary glass and steel designs, making Hungary's wood, tile, and copper creation dramatically different. Saudi Arabia evoked various desert images outside, inside a Bedouin camp exhibit, and a sculpture depicting what was described as the beauty of highly refined oil. Monaco's facade was inspired by a casino. Inside, a scale model of Monte Carlo on the shores of the Mediterranean. Underneath, a display of 80 species of fish native to the Principality's waters. The visual highlight of the U.S. Pavilion is a huge mural by Peter Max.
I was very glad to have been chosen to do the pavilion. I wanted to symbolize our whole history and how we've gotten there, and it's our evolution, our short little evolution, and where it may be going in the next 500 years.
The $48 million zinc-covered Canadian pavilion features a high-definition film about life up north, plus a crowd-pleasing simulated snowmobile ride. The Japanese maintain that their pavilion is the largest wooden structure in the world. Early on, a policy decision was made to emphasize Japanese history and culture, not technology and wealth.
People said that we know Honda, we know Sony, we know, Nissan, but we don't know how the people are living in Japan.
Like two-thirds of all the buildings here, this beautiful wooden structure will be torn down when Expo ends. But the Pavilion of Denmark will be going to Japan in 6 months, bought by a small town to grace a city park. Most of the 13,000 jobs created by Expo will also go away, although it is hoped that workers will retain their newly acquired usable skills. Most but not all of the workforce is Spanish. Take, for example, these folks, who are drumming up business for a German restaurant and a Canadian saloon.
There is a Peruvian girl dressed up as an Indian, a Spanish girl dressed up as a German girl, it's me, a German dressed up like an Indian.
Of course. Perhaps the most serious problem facing Expo is the threat of terrorist attacks made by a Basque separatist group. But several leaders of the group were captured recently, and 17,000 security personnel will be on duty.
We are confident that the same measures that work in the Madrid Peace Conference will work in here. We have our best men and our best technology at the service of having a peaceful exposition.
Expo hopes to draw 18 million visitors, but will break even if 13 million show up. Some consider it a success already, since it brought $10 billion worth of infrastructure improvements to a once-neglected region. And organizers hope that if this massive undertaking goes down in history as a tremendous success, the world's image of the Spanish people will be fundamentally altered.
Later in the program, we'll return here to Seville to take a look around the U.S. Pavilion. Stay with us. Good Morning America continues.
Here comes Rusty.
Look at what Vern Phillips is doing with his. His library card is helping him add a sunroom to his Berkeley, California house. He's not only borrowing how-to books, his library is also lending him the tools to do the work.
They have tile cutters there, linoleum cutters, things that you'd have to buy for that project if you didn't have access to a library like that.
You've got a library card? Yeah, bring your library card and some ID, and that'll be good enough.
This is the Berkeley Tool Lending Library, a do-it-yourselfer's paradise. Need a hacksaw? They got them. Looking for a level? Yep, they've got them too. They've even got hammers, although the nails are on you.
We are able to provide things here free of charge, which will cost you up to maybe $30 or $40 per day on the rental market.
I can give you a little set of 13. You think that'll take care of your needs? Yeah.
Berkeley's Tool Lending Library is one of the oldest in the country. The rules are the same as they are in a regular library. You can borrow the tools for free. If you're late returning them, you pay a fine. So each month, a lot of people take advantage of the best tool deal in town. And for a lot of those people, the Tool Lending Library is the difference between doing the job right and not doing it at all.
I've taken probably everything they've got over there. Skill saws, cut-off saws, tools for concrete work, cement mixer.
All right, so you don't need a cement mixer. Probably just as well. There are only about a half dozen libraries around the country that lend out tools like that. But just about everyone probably has something in it to lend that you didn't know about. Take the library here in Hingham, Massachusetts. It has things like CDs and records. It has more videos than most video stores. And that's just the beginning.
Guitars, camcorders, telescopes, ice cream machines, sewing machines, engraving tools.
Walter Jura is the Hingham Library's director and the man behind its big collection of stuff. He's spent 30 years here and has seen his library change from just a place to borrow books to to what he calls a community resource center.
We just tried to supplement books with materials that people need, can use, don't need to own perhaps, but need to use once in a while.
Jesse, don't forget your card.
So if this is all you picture in your mind when you think about your library, think again. The library of the 90s is a place that can not only make you smart, but money-wise at the same time.
It's free.
Now, of course, every library has books, but the other things they offer beyond that varies a lot from town to town. So take a walk or a short drive and find out what else your library can offer you. It's not going to cost you a cent to ask, and it could easily save you hundreds of dollars in the long run.
All the stuff we were looking at is free?
Not everything. There's a slight fee for some things. For example, in Hingham, they charge $1 for the typewriters. They charge $2 for the sewing machines per day, but it's a lot less than you would pay at a rental store.
And what about the pressure that so many libraries are actually closing down?
Well, it's tough right now. Libraries are a pretty easy target for budget cutters. There are about 15,000 of them in the country, although over the last 5 years, several hundred have closed. Several thousand have cut back their hours. So what you need to do is use your library. If your community sees that it's a viable thing, then they'll keep it going.
All right, John, I feel money-wise now. 19 minutes before the